This is what we actually call the waterbush from the southwest of West Australia. It's actually Bossia aquifolia, and the Aboriginal name is called netic. And this is quite prolific in the forest simply because of frequent fire. It loves fire. It actually gets stimulated by fire, and of course what happens is that after it's actually matured and then fallen over, it leaves copious amounts of litter here throughout the forest, creating a fire hazard. I'll take you over here to where a hot burn took place in a controlled burn here, and you can see for yourself how out of control this Bossia aquifolia is, or this waterbush. If you come this way. Well, as you can see behind me here, this is a result of a hot burn in this forest where the Bossia aquifolia has been stimulated by the intensity of the heat. Consequently, what happens is that we've created a fire hazard for the future here. The problem is that this is a perpetual situation. Now what's happened is that we've got a more serious fire hazard than we had previously. Now all around me here, what's happened is this has been hand burned before the major burn took place, as a protection that the fire wouldn't actually escape from here. But we can see with a low intensity burn that it hasn't affected the Bossia aquifolia so much. But as the fire became more intense as it went uphill here, it germinated and stimulated a lot of growth in the waterbush. If you come with me, I'll take you within the waterbush canopy to show you how a fire hazard is created by the overstimulation of fire on this particular species. Okay, about 4 or 5 years ago, a prescribed burn was carried out in this piece of forest here. And we could see the intensity of the burn by looking at the carbon actually on this marri tree here. But what's happened is, because the fire was so intense, what's happened is that it basically sort of killed most of the understory plants, but stimulated and germinated this particular waterbush here, Bossia aquifolia. Consequently, what's happened is that it's simplified the forest to a stage that it's become a fire hazard with this particular sort of plant that loves fire. Okay, if we have a look on the forest floor here, we can see all this debris of the Bossia aquifolia as it's breaking down. So we've got a very severe fire hazard here that's being created, ironically, by prescribed burning. We're standing in the Loudon State Forest near Wellington Mills, and you can see the aftermath of a prescribed burn that took place here about 3 or 4 months ago. Once again, we have the waterbush, the Bossia aquifolia, which of course now, as you can see, is a fire hazard. Ironically, the prescribed burn that was put in here to protect the community, lives and property and biodiversity, has resulted in an explosion of this Bossia aquifolia, which is now a fire hazard. In the next 2 or 3 years, what's going to happen is that all the seeds of the Bossia aquifolia, or the waterbush on the forest floor here, will regerminate and stimulate by the fire because of the potash. So once again, what's happening is that we'll create a bigger fire hazard than was before. Okay, what's happened here is this fire-dependent species, this Bossia aquifolia, has been stimulated by the fire. Consequently, what's happened is that it's shed millions of seeds throughout this piece of forest here. So when the first rains come, in about a month's time, there'll be a huge germination of this plant species again throughout the forest, simplifying the understory and then creating a fire hazard for the future, far more intense than what it was before this fire 3 or 4 months ago. Here we are in a similar ecosystem to the one that we had just visited, where there was a fire. What's different is that this piece of forest has not been burned for 40 years. The last fire that actually took place in this forest was in 1970. So you can see the forest is far more open here. But there is a very healthy understory of leaf litter. But what's happening is composting is going on here, so it's breaking down all the time under natural conditions. And you would expect after 40 years to have leaf litter that high, but that's a fallacy. because all the microbes here are actually sort of breaking it down under natural circumstances. So by leaving fire out of parts of the forest here, what's happening is that nature's playing a role in suppressing fire.